according to my YouTube analytics, 7.7% of you, which is to say the females that watch my channel, can ignore this video if you'd like. I'm not saying you have to, I'm just saying that if you want to, you can. I'm going to be talking mainly to the 92.3, I'm good at math, percent of my viewing public who's allegedly male, according again to the analytics. How they know, I'm not sure, but this is what they tell me. Men, it's okay to go to the craft store. You should go there, mainly because there is amazing stuff at the craft store, specifically for making terrain. I've been going to my local, I've got 3 craft stores in my area here in America, 3 big chains. One is called Michael's, one is called Joann Fabrics, and the other one's called Hobby Lobby. And I make runs to all of them and look for things, and I try to think kind of outside the box. I might be walking down the scrapbooking aisle, but I might find something that's going to work real well for a piece of terrain or something like that on my game board. You have to go and look and have an open mind when you do it. So I was at one of the shops just yesterday, and I found this big bag of what they call decorative glass. This thing's the size of my head. It's heavy. It's probably 2 pounds easy, and it's filled with these little tiny rocks. And it was $5. I'm going to show you some of these things in here. All right, so in here are these little tiny, they came in silver or in gold. I got the silver ones. I'm going to put some of these out on the thing here so you can see them. I'm going to try not to make too much of a mess. This stuff can work in basing. Oh geez, oh geez, oh geez. This stuff can work in basing. This stuff can work in bases on your terrain. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. It's reflective and kind of shiny. Comes in all kinds of different flavors, sizes. And it's little blocks. It's like little sharp pieces that you can, not too sharp, you're not going to cut yourself necessarily, if you step on one maybe. But if you put them, glue them to your bases, do things like that in your terrain, I think you can pull off some amazing looks. And I'm really glad to find this stuff. I think it's going to take paint pretty well because it's not too porous, but it's also not going to just slough it off. And yeah, this entire bag, this is going to last me probably for the rest of my life, $5. So that's not bad. When I go to the craft stores, one of the aisles that I always make sure to go down are the fake flower aisles. The reason I go down those aisles is to look for things that I can use as fake alien plants for terrain. I'm going to show you a photo here. This is a shot down the aisle of the local craft store. Most of that stuff, very pretty as it may be, is basically useless for what we're trying to do. So you kind of want to stay away from anything with a big flower on it, anything that's super brightly colored, anything that's got big leaves. Mainly, it's a sense of scale. If you're working with a space marine who's about this big, and then he's standing next to a plant that has a leaf that is as big as he is, that's just going to throw you off. It's going to look weird, even though it's possible that maybe he's on a planet that's predominantly covered with plants that are space marine sized. I mean, alien plants, who's to say? The people just looking at your table, even if you've maybe painted those leaves and turned them purple and made it look alien, they're still going to look like, I think he went to the craft store and just bought some, cheap plants and went from there. Now, that's not to say that there's not cool plants at the craft store that you can use. This is something I picked up last week. It's all plastic, and let's see if we can get some close-up shots, because it's going to probably build me, I don't know, a dozen pieces of terrain easy. This is, there's tiny, 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 tiny little nodules, and they're all plastic, and they're on these little stalks, and I'll be able to put these, onto pieces of whatever, and have them either hanging off of buildings or just sticking up on little bases, and I can go from there. And yeah, this will easily, this was $20, but it was on sale for half off, because a lot of these craft stores alternate back and forth about, well, every other week some part of the store is half off. So if you just wait, you can get something, usually pretty inexpensive. And like I said, this much, $10. So I'm set now for quite some time. Let's see here. Speaking of flowers, I've also got this thing. I don't know what this is. Spring Inspiration, it was $3. But if you look at it, these little pieces, that looks like an alien plant to me. If I cut it off here, spray paint the whole thing, you can kind of see here, These little weird looking plants, things that you can't necessarily recognize, those are the perfect things for when you're trying to make some sort of alien terrain. It just works great. These things will take airbrush, I'll cut them off, throw some wire on there, put them on a base, and kind of go from there. Sit them around, they're soft cover on the table now. Speaking of bases, I frequently use an MDF kind of a hardboard stuff that you get from the store, you know, the hardware store, and I take my rotozip and I cut irregular shapes and I make kind of rounded, you know, organic shapes, and that's what I glue stuff to, rocks and plants and things like that. But sometimes you don't necessarily want to do that. You want something that you can just buy quickly and work from. They have these little wooden letters at the craft store. This is the letter O, obviously, and this was $1.50. Actually, I think it was on sale, and there's 2 of them in here. So you take these little things, you take your Dremel, and you kind of just taper down the edges, go all the way around. You glue a piece of something to cover the hole, just plastic card or cardboard or whatever, and then you throw on a bunch of spackle, they call it filling compound in other parts of the world. You make yourself something, maybe throw some rocks in there, and then you bring these things in here, and you start having these sticking out of there, and now you've got yourself a little just piece of terrain that you can just set down, and these things are basically pre-cut. I mean, you don't have to worry about, if you want to taper them down a little bit, you can do that, but in general, you don't have to worry about it. Other things they have there at the store that are kind of cool. I'm looking forward to building some terrain for my Dust Warfare games. So I wanted a statue on a big stone plinth, you know, something like that. Again, went to the store and I found this eagle. Just a little plastic pre-painted eagle. He was $5, and I found this wooden block. So now he's going to go on the wooden block. I'm going to add plastic card edging to the wooden block to give it like a, you know, like molding. Maybe put a little plaque on the front, paint something in there, spray this all gray, do a brass effect or a bronze effect, verdigris, the green stuff that you see on statues, and he's going to be all done. And again, these 2 parts, got them at the craft store. Quick, easy, looks great. All of these things I've been talking about here are going to be things that I'm going to be showing you specifically in the future. I'm going to do a project with the plants. I'm going to do a project and show you step by step how to make a statue out of these kind of guys. And I'm going to try to show you something with this little silver glass stuff. How to use it in basing, kind of how to use it in terrain. But that'll be something that's coming up. My main point here is don't just think because you know, the craft store has a tendency demographically to be aimed towards women, that you should ignore that and just go to the hardware store, because honestly, you're not going to find cool stuff like this for terrain necessarily at the hardware store. You'll find some things, I'm not going to lie, but don't just think, well, that's for ladies, I don't want to go in there, because really, what's going to happen? They're not going to kick you out. Your money spends just as good as anybody else's. You're not going to get laughed at. You're going to end up with some stuff that's really going to work well for the terrain that you want to build, and I think that you're going to be pretty happy with the results.